All right, so we are going to start in a comfortable seat. So you guys all have blankets, and Artie, if you have a blanket, go ahead and grab it. If you kind of start seated at the edge of your blanket, and you kind of let your knees and your hips kind of come onto the mat, it allows your hips to sit up higher, which allows you to sit up straighter. So it allows your back to actually relax a little bit more and just to naturally sit up straighter. But you don't need, I mean, if you don't have a towel, it's no big deal. It's just kind of explaining why we're doing it. So let's go ahead and roll our shoulders up and back a few times. Just kind of checking in, starting to lengthen your breath. And even before we start, let's just kind of take our hands together. You can just kind of cross the hands, and we'll just do a little bit of a wrist stretch. Just kind of rolling your wrist around a few times in one direction, a few times in the other. So we were saying, sometimes our wrists can be a little sore from yoga, from plank. So if you want to just hold it forward and pull the hand back, but also even just from holding our phones up. So stuff we don't even realize. Sometimes it can make our hands and our wrists sore. So it's nice to just kind of take out a little bit of time to just specifically stretch the wrists as well, and then you can switch sides. And then you can just kind of allow your hands to relax on your knees, whatever comfortable. Maybe close your eyes if you want, rolling your head and neck out once or twice. And then just starting to sit up straight. So feel your sit bones connecting with the mat or the ground, the blanket, lifting up through the base of your spine, all the way up through your neck, through the top of your head. Close your eyes or just soften your gaze, maybe looking out at the water. And start to maybe come into an Ujjayi type breathing. So taking long, deep inhales in through your nose. Long, deep exhales out through your nose. Making your inhales and your exhales about the same length. With each breath, just kind of feel your body relaxing a little bit more. And your mind starting to just become more calm, really starting to become present. Just tuning in to your environment, to being here now. Being open to this class and this experience. Noticing all the sensations and feelings of being outdoors right now. So noticing the wind, the breeze, the waves, the sun setting, maybe even the sounds from the marina, from the wind and the waves, feeling of the air. Just embracing this as part of the class today. And take a moment to set an intention before we start. Maybe just reminding yourself of something you're grateful for, or maybe just a goal that you have. And then from here, you can just slowly open your eyes, and we're just going to start to move in circles. So you're just going to start to come forward, around, so nothing in particular, just kind of waking the body up, making the circles as big or as small as you want. And we'll go in the same direction for about 3 or so circles. And then when you're ready, you can switch and move in the opposite direction. One more big circle in this direction. Good. And then from here, you can just start to walk the hands forward. Relax the head and neck for a few breaths, keeping the sit bones down. And then you can walk the hands back about halfway. We're going to go ahead and bring your right forearm down, kind of just in the middle, and we're going to come to a little twist. So you can take your left hand to your left shoulder, spinning it open towards the sky, and then maybe reaching that arm up. Good. Deep breaths. So same deep breaths we were doing just at the beginning of class. And then you can bring that hand back down. We'll bring the opposite forearm down just in the middle, opposite hand to the shoulder. Spin that shoulder open towards the sky and then reach up. Good. And then you can bring that hand down and we'll walk our hands back. So we're going to come to our first Yin Yoga pose. It's going to be a child's pose. But if you have your blanket, we're going to set it up because we're going to move into a frog pose. So you're going to set it up so the blanket goes outside of the mat because we'll start out with our knees, the width of the mat, and then we'll bring our knees out a little bit wider so the blanket will be kind of nice extra cushion for your knees. If you don't have one, that's fine. It's just something extra. And then you'll take your knees the width of your mat, sitting all the way back to your heels, and then walking the hands forward. Once you're here, you can relax your forehead down onto your mat. And we'll be holding each of these poses typically about between 3 to 5 minutes. So I'll kind of be timing the poses. And what you want to do, so Yin Yoga is a special type of yoga where we try to access the deep tissues in our body, so not just the muscles that we access in the Vinyasa yoga style, but the tissues in the joints, the ligaments, and the bones, so the ones that are really deep in there. And in order to access them, you typically need to hold the pose for a longer period of time because they're a little bit less flexible and a little bit deeper in the body. So when you get into each Yin Yoga pose, you want to take a moment and check in with your body. Notice where you're feeling that stretch in your body. Each pose kind of has a few target areas, but everyone's different, so you might be feeling it a little bit more in certain areas as well. So for child's pose, we're mostly targeting the inner legs, a little bit the hips, and then you'll also feel it in your upper body as well. So maybe your arms, your shoulders, and your back. It's a nice gentle grounding pose. So once you're there, try to relax all those muscles that you feel the stretch in. By relaxing the muscles, it allows the muscles not to kind of take over the stretch, and it allows you to stretch deeper. And then try to find some stillness in the pose. And stillness is not just about stillness in the body, but it's also trying to find kind of that quietness and stillness in the mind. And that's where your breath comes into play. So if you notice your mind starts to become too busy, you can always just try to come back to your breath to kind of just bring you back to the present. Let's take about 2 more deep breaths here. And then from here, you can slowly lift your head up, walk your hands back about halfway, and we're going to transition into a frog pose. So for frog pose, we're going to take our feet out a little bit wider, flex the feet so it kind of looks like a frog. You can come up. So like right now, I'm coming up on my hands, lifting the hips up higher, and then coming up onto the forearms. And then see even if you can slide the knees out a little bit wider as well. And so option here, So hips are up high. Option here to stay on your forearms, or you can stretch the arms out, bringing your forehead down. So this pose is getting deeper into the inner thighs, so deeper than the regular child's pose. And we'll be here for about 1 more minute. And everybody's different, so if something just doesn't feel right about the pose or feel right in your body for any reason, you can always just kind of come out of the pose and maybe try something different. We'll be here about 3 more deep breaths. And then just moving nice and slow, start to make your way out of the pose. So coming up onto your hands, we'll come into a counter stretch. So just by bringing the knees together, sitting back towards the heels, maybe taking the hands behind you. So just a child's pose counter stretch. Bring your forehead down, about 5 deep breaths. And then you can slowly make your way up, and we're going to come up to a seat. So if you have your towel, your blanket, you can kind of just fold it back up, and we'll just kind of place it over to the side. And we're going to take, so I'm going to say it doesn't matter what side you start with. We'll start with one side and then move to the other side. So one leg's out long, the other foot's towards your inner thigh. We'll kind of square our hips towards that leg that's out long and allow that foot to relax. So instead of staying flexed and engaged, that's working the muscle. We want to work beyond the muscle, so let it relax and then start to walk your hands down. So we'll just start out, nice and slow, gradually making your way down into the pose. And you want to try to come into your edge in the pose. So your edge is going to be not like the farthest you can pull yourself down, but it's going to be where you feel a good stretch. You feel your body is working, like actively trying to stretch, but you're not forcing it. You're not yanking or you're not pulling or pushing. And then once you're kind of there in your edge for the moment, you want to notice where you're feeling the stretch. So for this particular pose, probably feeling it in the hamstring muscle, maybe a little bit in the knee, a little bit in the back. So try to allow those muscles to relax into the pose. Try not to tense those muscles too much. And then just come back to your breath. So we've held the pose about a minute now, so you should be able to go a little bit deeper than you could at the very beginning of the stretch. So just kind of checking in, seeing if you can go a little further. Find a new edge in the pose. From here, we're just going to add a variation. So just walk your hands back just about halfway, and then you can walk your hands towards the middle and then start to come forward here, maybe coming onto your forearms, or even if you want to grab your blanket, you can rest your forearms or even maybe your head down on the blanket. One or two more breaths here. And then you can start to walk your hands back, just moving nice and slow. We'll take the feet out wide and just windshield wiper the knees side to side just to release the spine. Good. And then maybe even shake out the legs. So usually right away after the stretch, it might feel a little stiff, but that usually goes away pretty quickly. And then we'll just switch sides. So you can set up for the other side, just taking the other foot out long. Relaxing that foot, squaring your hips to that side, and then just taking your time, slowly starting to make your way down, coming into your edge on this side for right now. And then checking in, seeing if you can go a little bit further, a little bit deeper. And then slowly walking your hands back about halfway, and then we'll take our hands to the center. Make your way down to the center, maybe relaxing your forearms on your blanket or even bring your head down to the blanket. Just kind of making yourself comfortable in the pose. 1 or 2 more breaths. And then you can take your time to walk your hands back. We'll windshield wiper our knees again, side to side, just to release any tension in our spine. And then we'll come to a reverse tabletop. So that's a counter stretch for a forward fold. So bring the heels in towards you, hands behind you, fingers facing you, lift the hips up, and allow the head to drop back, throat to open up. And then you can go ahead and release. All right, very good. So next we're going to come into puppy pose. So if you have your blanket or towel, you can use that as just extra padding for your knees. And we're going to come onto our hands and knees. And actually, before we come into puppy pose, let's do a few rounds of cat-cow. But to stretch out our wrists a little bit more, bring your hands, so your fingers, if they can go all the way to facing you, that's really deep, you can do that. If they don't go all the way, just kind of to the side is fine. And then doing a few rounds of cat-cow this way. Inhale to lift your chest and head. Exhale to round your back, round your shoulders. I'll do one more round of cat-cow. Good. And then from here, we'll turn our hands back facing forward. We'll come into puppy pose. So keeping your hips up high over top of your knees, stretch the arms out, and then you can bring the forehead down. Settling into the pose here. So for puppy pose, our target is our upper body. So you should be feeling the stretch in your upper back, your arms, and your shoulders. Try to allow those muscles to just kind of release into the pose. Allow those muscles to relax. We'll take about 2 or 3 more deep breaths here. And then you can slowly start to walk your hands back. We'll sit all the way back towards the heels, coming into a child's pose counter stretch to relax the shoulders, bringing the hands behind you with the palms up. Bring your forehead down for a few more breaths. And then from here, you can come up onto your knees, kind of sitting back onto your knees, and we'll just draw the shoulders down and back. Taking a few breaths here. So this is a good counter stretch for the forward hunching that we do over our phones and computers during the day. And then either staying here, or if you want, you can come forward, bringing the top of the head down, rounding the back, lifting your arms up and your hands up and over a little bit more. Good, and then we'll make our way back down. Just moving nice and slow. All right, so we are going to come, we're going to come to the side of our mat. So if you have your blanket, you can set, I'll just show you what it's going to look like. You're going to take one knee on your blanket, the other leg out long. So it doesn't matter what leg you start with. We'll do one side and then switch and do the other side. And if you don't have the blanket, that's fine too. All right, so we're going to start upright. The whole pot of that foot will be pressed down. So whatever leg's out long, that arm is going to go down on that leg that's out long, and the other arm's going to reach up. And then we're just going to do a side stretch. So just reaching up and over to the side. So stretching the oblique muscles. Maybe looking up towards your fingers. It's called gate pose. Take about 5 deep breaths. And then you can slowly make your way out of it. All right, from here, we're going to sit all the way back towards your heel. So sitting back to the heel behind you and then coming onto your forearms. This one's called a yin pose called outrigger pose. And this is a pose, just a nice stretch for inside the legs. If you want to stay on your forearms or even reaching the arms out longer, bringing your forehead down. About 2 or 3 more deep breaths. And then you can take your time to make your way back up. So we'll just come up and we're going to switch sides. So maybe just moving the blanket over to the other side if you were using it for extra padding. Straightening out the other leg. We'll start out upright. Taking the arm down the leg that's out long, reaching up with the other arm, finding length, and then up and over to the side for that nice side stretch. One more deep breath. Good, and then you can bring your hands back down. We're going to sit back all the way back towards your heel, keeping this leg out long. Same thing on the other side, maybe making your way down to your forearms, or you can bring the head down and bring your arms out long. About 2 or 3 more deep breaths. And then you can take your time to make your way out of the pose. All right. So from here, you can just take your blanket, your towel, and so next we're going to come into pigeon pose. So you can set it up, either 2 options. You can just kind of set it up to be a pillow to kind of like rest your forehead on, or you can set it up to kind of like same thing to place underneath your hips. So just kind of making it a little bit smaller, I guess. Yeah. All right, so we're going to start in a downward facing dog. So whenever you're ready, making your way up to downward facing dog, spreading out the fingers, lifting your hips up and back, maybe just stretching it out a little bit to start with, heel toeing your feet down. Feeling that nice stretch as you press the heel down, feeling the stretch in your calf. Also feeling the stretch in the back of your legs, your arms, your shoulders. From here, we'll come to a 3-legged down dog. So reach your right leg up, heels up towards the sky. If you want, you can bend the knee, open up your hip. From here, we'll make our way into pigeon. So taking that right knee behind the right wrist, right foot over to the left side. Yes. Take that back knee back. So we'll start in an upright pigeon option with that blanket. If you have like a high distance between your hip and the mat, you can kind of put it there to allow the hip to relax. Or we're eventually going to come to a resting pigeon, so you can bring that blanket in front of you to allow your head to rest on it as like a little pillow. So whichever one you want. So in your pigeon pose is targeting mostly the hips, so it's a really kind of a deep hip stretch. So feeling it on the outside of the right hip, a little bit in the glutes. And just take a moment and notice if you're tensing up anywhere, and you want to try to allow your body to just release and relax into this pose. Softening the muscles in your face and allowing yourself to just let go, to just breathe. We'll take about 2 more deep breaths. And then you can start to lift your head up, start to walk your hands back, and we're going to come to an upright pigeon. So drawing the shoulders back, finding length in your spine, and this is actually a little bit of a back bend, so lifting your chest up, just taking a few breaths here. And then we'll make our way out. So coming maybe to a tabletop, or you can just come right into a downward facing dog. But we'll come into downward facing dog to just stretch it out. If you want, lifting that right leg up or bending the knee and doing a few hip circles, just to stretch it out, work out some kinks. And then we'll set up for the other side. So 3-legged down dog, reaching your left leg up. If you want, bending at the knee, opening the hip, stretching it out. And then we'll bring the left knee behind the left wrist, that left foot over to the right. Take your back knee back. And just setting up on the other side. So setting if you want to use your blanket or towel. Making your way down to a resting pigeon. Noticing how this side feels compared to the other side. Allowing your body to just sink a little bit deeper. Softening the muscles in your face. Or noticing if your muscles are tensing up anywhere else, and just trying to soften and let go. And just give into the pose, into the stretch. Taking about 2 more deep breaths here. And then moving nice and slow, just walking the hands back. We'll come to an upright pigeon for a few breaths. Drawing the shoulders back, lifting up through your chest, lengthening through your spine. And then you can take your time to make your way back into a downward facing dog. Spreading out the fingers, just stretching it out, maybe doing some hip circles. Good. And then we'll make our way down and we'll make our way into a seat. We're going to set up for a seated forward fold. If you brought some water, maybe grabbing a drink. All right. So from here, just allowing the feet to relax. So just make sure they're not flexed, they're just relaxed, just natural. Maybe removing the flesh out from your hips just to make sure the hip bones are really grounded. And then we're going to start to make our way forward. So starting out, moving from your hips, coming as far as you can here, and then let your head relax, let your arms, your shoulders relax into the pose. If at any time it feels like too much like tension or rounding for your back, you can still work on the stretch coming further from your hips, but keeping your chest lifted to let the back be a little bit straighter. And then just kind of tune into your body and notice where you're feeling the stretch. So this is really good hamstring stretch. So feeling it underneath the legs. Noticing if you're feeling it anywhere else in your body, probably a little bit in your back as well. One or two more breaths. And then just slowly walking your hands back, just kind of pausing, sitting up straight for a breath or two. And then we'll windshield wiper the knees. So take the feet out wide, drop both knees to one side and the other. And then we'll come to that reverse tabletop, hands behind you, fingers facing you, heels in towards you. Lift up nice and high, and then allow your head to drop back about 5 deep breaths. Good, and then you can lower back down. All right. So from here, we're going to make our way onto our back. So if you want to take one more drink of water, you can take a drink of water. You can have, just have your blankets out to the side. We won't be using them. Once you're on your back, just hug your knees in towards your chest, doing a few circles. And then from here, we'll take our both knees over towards our right side for a lying down twist. You can relax your right hand on those knees, so let those knees relax down. With your left arm, you can kind of just bend it at the elbow, let it relax, kind of up overhead. Maybe looking up towards the sky, or you can look in the opposite direction of your knees for a little bit of a neck stretch. So this twist, this lying down twist, is really good for our back. It's good for our spine. So just allowing your body to relax in this twist. And then taking about 2 more deep breaths here. We'll just come back through to the center, and we'll just stretch it out. So straightening your legs out, reach your arms up overhead, just making yourself nice and long. And then you can bend your knees, hugging your knees in towards your chest again. And then we'll drop both knees over towards the left side, relaxing the left hand on the knees, right arm maybe bent a little bit at the elbow, reaching out to the side or kind of reaching a little bit up overhead. And your gaze is maybe up towards the sky, the clouds, or you can look more to your right in the opposite direction of your knees, a little bit more of a neck stretch. And then from here, you can just make your way back through to the center. We'll stretch it out long again, straightening your legs, reaching your arms up overhead. From here, we're going to come into a fish pose variation. So just coming onto your forearms behind you. So your hands will kind of just be maybe a little bit underneath your hips, elbows underneath your shoulders, pointing your toes. And this is a little back bend. So inhale, lift your hips up, lift your chest up, and then allow your head to drop back, keeping your shoulders away from your ears. Keep lifting the hips. Chest is lifting forward. And then you can slowly move your arms out to the side to just make your way all the way down to lying down. Any last kind of stretch or movement you want to do, and then we'll make our way into Shavasana. Shavasana will be here for just about 3 minutes or so. So finding a comfortable position to lie on your back. Maybe letting the feet open up naturally out to the side. Getting out any last minute kind of movement or any kind of last minute fidgeting and trying to come to a place of stillness in your Shavasana. Scanning your body. So starting with your toes and your feet. Notice if you have any tension. And just allow your feet, your toes to release, relax, and just sink deeper into the mat. And then moving up towards your calves and your legs, allowing them to release and just melt into the mat. Letting your lower back relax, your upper back, softening the muscles in your face. Relaxing your shoulders, your arms, and even your fingers. Maybe closing your eyes or just looking up at the clouds. Absolutely nothing you have to do or have to think about right now. And then from here, take a nice deep inhale in through your nose. Complete exhale out through your mouth. And one more time, nice deep inhale through your nose. Complete exhale out through your mouth. Start to wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, rolling out your ankles and rolling out your wrists a few times. And then you can bend your knees, reach your arms up overhead, roll onto one side, and then just kind of pause on that side for 2 or 3 breaths. And taking your time to slowly make your way all the way up to a seat. All right, from here we'll take our hands to our heart center. Take one more inhale, reach out and up, pressing the palms together, bringing them back down. Good. And then just taking a moment to feel a sense of peacefulness, sense of gratitude, and just allowing the positive energy that you feel from your practice to be a benefit to yourself and the people around you throughout the evening and throughout the day tomorrow. Namaste. Good job, everyone. Can feel the air start to get cooler, like right, just a little, but I felt it.